So over the last 10 weeks, our team explored the intersection of AI and cybersecurity by building a website designed to defend against the 10 most common web attacks. The project gave us hands-on experience with both AI tools and real-world security challenges. It's been a valuable way to prepare for the growing overlap between tech and innovation and cyber attacks.
Hey, thanks. So the highlights on this, that we created a mitigated threat website, so a safe website, and then a vulnerable website, and a series of tests, both automated and manual, that protect against these 10 vulnerabilities. And this project was done with the help of AI tools. So if we first go to the code itself, we have a doc for each of the 10 most common web attacks, and then we have a test that runs the front end. We have a terminal running the safe version of the server and a unsafe version of the server. So if we pull that up now, we can give you an example of that. This would be the to-do app login. And then if you hit run security test, it takes you over to here. If you have the safe side, we'll run one of these and it says, hey, that failed. The malicious actor was unable to do what it wanted to. But if we use the vulnerable version, you'll see that there was a victim. The malicious actor was able to inject a task into another user's account. So that's just an example of the code and the app that was created. From there, we'll go into a series of lessons learned. So, hi again, I'm Brian. My contributions for this were on the SQL injection attack, the broken authentication attack, and the cross-site scripting attacks. The technologies that we used for these were PostgreSQL, the pretty common CRUD application. I did find this cool library Helmet that specifically stopped the cross-site scripting. It'll help with the headers for the different requests. And I used VS Code with Copilot. Having that integrated into the IDE was very helpful. My development process, write out the pseudocode. I tried having it work as a pair programmer. That wasn't working very well, so I would just ask it to fill out the pseudocode with the JavaScript syntax that I was unfamiliar with, and then read the linked resources from the responses. So that applied to each of the vulnerabilities where, I needed to learn more context, and then Copilot was able to write some good documentation because every team wants documentation, but who likes writing it? A couple of deviations from the project on timelines, and also there was overlap between the different vulnerabilities. And so instead of each of those happening in a silo, we did come together and communicated in the Discord on how to stay on top of those for everybody. My challenges, I haven't done front-end development in a while, but I work with Visual Basic at work, so JS, CSS, HTML, not that hard, especially when the team pulls together and we put in the extra effort to make each challenge surmountable. My main learnings, again, like I said, you want AI tools to be used as a click saver and use it as a soundboard sometimes. It's got a lot of system designs that it can pull on to compare with, and it's a better Google search. Google has so many ads, but thankfully Copilot doesn't yet. Over to you, Sam.
Thanks, Brian. So for this project, I worked on XML external entity attacks, security misconfiguration, and sensitive data exposure. I also worked with React, Node, PostgreSQL, pgadmin for the GUI, ChatGPT, decrypt encryption, and fast XML parser. Those are two libraries I use for the attacks. For the development process, I began with the basic npm commands to run the application that everyone does for a new Node project. Fed ChatGPT prompts and code for each security vulnerability that I was working on. Analyzed the output, tested viable solutions that I came up with, and created tests based on the output. So for deviations, early stages, we built a Python application, but then we quickly pivoted to React, which is easier for UI development and has more library support with npm packages. I also began working on the CI/CD pipeline, but ran into some issues So that would be some future developments for this project. Challenges that I came across was similar to Brian. I had no experience with PostgreSQL, so it took me a while to learn that. And there's some new React syntax I wasn't familiar with, so I also had to learn that. But AI helped me overcome that. Some lessons learned. Uh, the model doesn't know the entire application, so be cognizant of giving it enough context to make informed decisions. And I we witnessed the downfall of Stack Overflow with these chatbots. You can just ask it anything, and it'll come up with any development answer you need. Over to you, Alex.
Thanks, Sam. So I targeted these four vulnerabilities: broken access control, insufficient logging, insecure deserialization, and using components with known vulnerabilities. If you want to learn more, you can check our documentation on that. Additional task that I kind of worked on as well was setting up the initial React site, combining all the vulnerable backends into a single website, and then also testing the front end, or setting up the testing front end. And then, so for technologies, I use ChatGPT Plus as a coding assistant. It was the most convenient for me to use, and it was pretty straightforward and made it easy to upload any documentation that I already had. I also use PostgreSQL as previously mentioned. Chose this over SQLite just because it allows multiple users to write to this and access the same database, which is more similar to real life. Node, I also use the same kind of Node.js, Express, React, so on and so forth as my teammates. In addition, I also use Node serialization as well as JavaScript serialization. This is all mostly based on what ChatGPT recommended for these vulnerabilities. And then I primarily code in VS Code because that's what I was familiar with. Moving on to my development process. So my general approach for writing code with ChatGPT was to first provide ChatGPT with my development plan, and then I would indicate this is what I plan to work on, and then have ChatGPT kind of create a pseudocode, and then I would provide feedback until the plan looked like something I would actually work with. And then I would go ahead and let ChatGPT make the first draft, and then I would just kind of follow standard code review back and forth until the code reached something that would be usable. And then my general approach to each vulnerability, of course, would be to first write a penetration test. Then I would verify and create a vulnerable route, and then I would then modify test if needed, and then ensure that the vulnerability is patched out in the secure website. Some deviations I had. So original plan was to create a vulnerable website, but ChatGPT kind of made it too secure. So what we ended up having to do, or at least me, is I would write the test, but then I would have to kind of modify the back end so that it would have vulnerabilities, and then I would then patch those vulnerabilities again. This kind of led to a lot of different versions of the same site, just because each vulnerability kind of had a different modified backend. This would make the workload a lot more than anticipated because we would also have to spend time to kind of write this vulnerable backend in addition to our new code. This was kind of resolved by putting on more hours in next sprint. Moving on to challenges. So this was my first time using AI to kind of help with coding. So it took a lot of effort to kind of learn the limitations of AI and kind of figure out what the best workflow would be. And then, like previously mentioned, we also had to overcome the AI being a little too secure when I first made the code. It was also, like, I didn't mention it here, but it's also my first time working with Postgres SQL, which is also an experience. And then finally, it was difficult to run so many different versions of the same website, so we ultimately decided to merge them all into a single vulnerable version. Moving on to my lessons. So AI serves well as a tool, but it's not really a replacement. It's best work kind of like back and forth with a collaborative manner to kind of like review, verify, and improve as you need. I also learned like it's actually pretty good to kind of integrate AI into full stack development to kind of help with like the menial task. And then finally, AI has also been very useful to kind of learn about a new topic because didn't have any experience with website security before this, but I felt AI did a good job of kind of telling me the importance of each test and how it functions. In conclusion, we found that AI is a useful tool for speeding up production, but it cannot yet fully replace software engineers. We still need the engineers to kind of review the code, and they require pretty good understanding to do that. And they also need to be able to understand project goals, because as Sam mentioned, the AI would often forget about like various components. So you need someone there to kind of hold its hand. It's also pretty good at producing documentation, so that kind of saves us a lot of time there. We just need to supply it with the code and also mention again what our goals were. It's also good at generating new code that's heavily based on existing code, and it also draws from existing code bases, which kind of leads to some issues when trying to make vulnerable websites. Where are we going next with this? We are working on deploying a demo website that will be running on the a demo website that will kind of allow users to explore this without having to work through setup. We also plan to potentially add more vulnerabilities and also automate some of our existing tests. And this was a study rather than a project, so no product is planned. And here are some links. And special thanks to our TA for all the help this quarter.